Hello and welcome to a brief demonstration of the container ready module of Green Rain by Fedr8. This is just a short demonstration to show you the second of three modules, and this is the second of three videos, of how Green Rain, in this case, can tell you opportunities for containerizing an application. And all of this is based on Green Rain's static code analysis deep learning engine. Our engine's been taught how to learn things about code bases, and it uses that knowledge to find out useful things, whether how your application can be modernized for the cloud. But in this case, it's how could I use containers in my application? So we've imported a number of applications, and we're going to pick one in particular just to look at. And we've already looked at the Cloud Ready module in another video that you can find. This time we're going to look at containers. So again, the same top screen was this how many files. It's kind of the size of the problem is the way I like to think about it. Complexity about inside files, and is the code hard to read. Entanglement is about modules. Very important for when you're making changes. If you imagine if you containerize some things where the code is used by lots of other modules and that container has got dependencies on it, then that's the sort of architectural thing you're going to need to pay attention to and that Green Rain tells you about. Now it'll go through in the containers and we can pick between Docker and Red Hat using Green Rain. And just like in Cloud Ready, it groups the technical dependencies into categories, which makes it easy for us humans to understand. And as we look through these dependencies, we can start asking questions of the code base. So we can say, for example, from a Docker perspective, what languages make up our application? Because one of the first steps you do when you Dockerize or containerize an application is you often start with a language-specific container. In this case, Green Rain has learned that our code base is using PHP. We haven't told it that, we just imported the code and Green Rain worked it out. So you can imagine if this application is new to you, if it's a historical application where maybe the documentation is missing or even the people are missing, Green Rain is going to fill in that gap on your team. Now we want to dig a little bit deeper. So from the things that Green Rain has found, what third-party services does the code base use that we might not need to containerize? So email services, there's a kind of comical phrase that friends don't let friends run their own email. And in fact, I know from having looked through the code base of this application that really this is down to JavaScript client-side email settings. So I found that out by going through this demo before and looking at the code base, which is here, and working out where those JavaScript settings were. So I know not to worry about that. That's valuable just in itself. Equally, I'm not going to containerize them on Microsoft Outlook. Equally, I'm probably going to use a login service. I'm probably going to use an external database, and so on and so on. However, I may wish to containerize and find a container that's already built to run Apache and PHP. That's going to be immediately solve a lot of my problems in doing this. But there are sometimes things that I do in my code which might break a container. These are the classics. So one of the aspects of containers are that they are what people call ephemeral. So they're quick to start, quick to destroy, and they shouldn't contain any state. Now, these two things really go against that principle. So disk I/O, if you're writing to a disk from code inside a container, you need to make sure you're doing it to a container volume that is permanent. So if you just write to a container and then you discard that container, all your writes are gone. So there's a way of doing that. For example, with Docker, you can use volumes, and there's some other techniques, but that's immediately telling me, hey, you're going to have to look at that kind of architecture. Equally with session, if I'm saving session state locally inside my container and my container is destroyed for some reason, I lose those session states. And so if the user is logged onto their banking application and all of a sudden their session is lost, they go straight back to the login screen and they're extremely upset because you've lost their session. So these are things that I need to fix architecturally if I'm going to use container. Now Green Rain cuts another corner for you. It's also going to look up, can I find a container related to the dependencies I've also found? So as we said, PHP, you probably want to start with a PHP container image. You may still wish to run MySQL in a container. You may wish to consume Amazon's MySQL RDS. It's up to you. We're just highlighting what's there. Nothing for LDAP, but we probably don't want to run that in a container anyway. We'll probably want to connect to a corporate LDAP service, and you get the general idea. Just trying to make it easy, first of all, with the container module, that it's easy to see what opportunities there are for containerizing and what might get in the way. And from that, we can build a containerization plan and move forward with the application. Thank you.